Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Killteam podcast, connecting Killteam communities across the globe. Today, we're going over to Copenhagen in Denmark with our special guest today, Anders. Welcome, Anders.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure being here.
Yeah, I mean, you messaged us because you're a longtime listener after we popped over to Sweden and Malmo. So, now we're here to talk a little bit about Denmark. It's actually, Malmo is just over a long bridge to Copenhagen, the capital of Denmark. And
more or less.
I guess Denmark's got a little bit more than just Legos, right?
I mean, I dare to say so.
There's more than one form of plastic crack in Denmark.
Exactly. We have quite a few, actually.
You guys started playing, or you started playing at the beginning of the edition, and we're talking a little bit about your favorite Blooded and Hearthkyn Salvagers today, hopefully, and talking and catching up a little bit about Denmark and the active Killteam scene there.
Definitely.
Before we head into all the other fun stuff, what have you guys been up to in your day-to-day lives?
I'm doing exams on my studies at the moment. It's been a bit chaotic due to sickness and illness for some of our teachers, but things are getting where they should be, and I hope to be able to have a bit of Christmas vacation before writing goes on. So that's more or less my how my days are looking at the moment.
What about you, Jason? What have you been up to?
Well, I just had a 10-player tournament for The End, which is that skirmish game that I've been working on for a little over a year now. And it was really fun. We had a couple people that hadn't even played before and just showed up, tried it out, and it seems like everyone had an easy time getting into it, and it was fun and successful for sure. But I also got my tickets to LVO recently, as I know, Travis, you did as well. And so I'm kind of putting a pin in that for a little bit as I get ready for LVO. I'm still even trying to decide what faction I'm going to play. Hopefully by the time the episode comes out, I'll be pretty soundly decided.
Yeah, I'm excited to go to LVO and meet Jason for the first time in real life.
Yep, and we'll have been working on the podcast for more than a year since, and then we'll finally meet.
Yeah. But, I've been playing a little bit of Rogue Trader on the side. Rogue Trader's been pretty fun. It's much longer than I was expecting. I've seen some of the reviews, and they say that the game is up to 130 hours if you do all the content. I've just having a blast telling the Sister of Battle to go murder every single person with her heavy bolter.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's been fun. She's got a heavy bolter, and she switches over to a power mace and a hand flamer, and just destroying everything right now. So officers, very important, it feels like.
Yeah.
But, we're here to talk with Anders about the Denmark Killteam scene and a little bit of what you've been doing over there. So why don't we kick it off a little bit? How's it going in Denmark?
Where to start? To begin with, there wasn't really a scene. When me and my friends started playing, I only knew my own handful of friends to play with to begin with. So I was like, why is nobody playing in Denmark? Why is nobody speaking about this game? It's super fun. So I began reaching out. I found a few other people who started playing. I was at the moment working at a local game store here in Copenhagen, where I began hosting a few tournaments. The first one, 6 players turned up. The second one, 24 people turned up. So that was quite the improvement. That was half a year between them. Then I stopped working there, but I met up with one of the players that had been there. We played a couple of games, and spoke about the whole situation with the lack of a Danish scene. So we began arranging tournaments together, and then slowly our crew expanded. So now at the we call ourselves Group Activation, because all the other organizer teams across the world has some sort of cool name that has some it's named after a rule or
Some part of Warhammer lore.
Some kind of a game
exactly.
mechanic.
Yeah, exactly. So we decided that we were going to be a Group Activation. We are 4 guys now: me, Nicholas, Benjamin, and Troels. We began hosting. We hosted a few leagues to begin with, just to like expand our player core. Starting to play most of our games at the local game stores instead of at home, to like attract people, and people came over and were like, "Oh, what's that? What are you doing? Oh yeah, I heard about this." And then just slowly growing with a little tournament in between once in a while. We just finished our last league here, like I think was the 26th of November. We had we usually do the thing where we have like 24 people, 20 to 24 players, and then we do the top cut, then play some final games. So yeah, people were happy. It was a really, really nice event. We've already by now planned out the next few events for all of 2024 so far from our organization.
How many other organizations are there in the Denmark region?
I only know of one other organizer team, which is like in the other end of the country. I can't remember if it's the 3rd or 4th biggest city in Denmark, but it's called Aalborg.
Okay.
Running from a gang called Troa. I apologize if I'm wrong about that. I don't know them that well. But they have a tournament here at the 14th of January, where a bunch of our Copenhagen guys are going to go over there and obviously win their event. I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah, everyone wants to banter. Yeah, everybody's has their friendly neighborhood rivalries. You know, in New York we have New York and the Baltimore DC region. There's a little bit of friendly rivalry there, and I think Command Point Shane, he's been trying to beat all the Brooklyn players just because he's in a different part of New York. So yeah, friendly rivalries are all good.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm sure that you guys have a little bit of friendly banter between you and Malmo, right? Because you guys are very, very close. Copenhagen, Malmo, you have 2 active Killteam scenes connected by just a bridge over the ocean, I think.
Yeah, obviously. Denmark and Sweden have so many years of history of going to war with one another.
Now you're going to Killteam war. Now you're going to Dice war.
Now we're going to Killteam war. No, it's the plan is to like turn it into like a friendly scene, and fighting our wars with little plastic soldiers, possibly metal if you still use metal figures.
Mm-hmm.
Not shaming, but for now we're just trying to, like, in some form of unison, trying to make the Scandinavian scene as a whole grow.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what is going on in the rest of Scandinavia. We hope you're out there, Norway and Finland. Reach out if you are. We would love to have you aboard. But for now, it's just Denmark and Sweden.
Yeah, you guys have a little bit of there's a little bit of proximity that probably helps keep your 2 scenes kind of moving together in the same direction. Just because if someone runs a tournament on one side, you can drag players over from your region or their region very quickly, which is good.
I mean, already by now, there's like half of the we have an event in June we're like half of the players that have signed up so far are Swedish guys, and not just from Malmö, but also from Stockholm, the Swedish capital. So and that's like, I mean,
that's a good distance, right?
Driving distance is different in USA. I know that. So it might not sound as much to you, but it's like a 6-hour drive from Stockholm to Copenhagen, unless you, of course, to fly over.
Yeah, I think in California it's not so crazy. In Texas it's not so crazy. In New York it probably feels a little bit crazy. So it just depends on which part of the US our listeners are tuning in from.
Yeah, that's my general impression, that it's different. It's just, yeah, it's not too bad for larger parts of America.
The 6-hour drive is basically like me and the Minnesota crew going to Chicago. So I totally understand that vibe. That's like our Adepticon over here is a pretty big event. That's like about 6 hours away for me.
Yeah, how many players is that tournament coming up trending at for your part, and Anders?
So far we have, of course I don't have it open. It's my buddy Nicholas that is our BCP man.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually don't know at the moment, but I think so far it's 13 players or something. I mean, there's just people are slow about signing up in Copenhagen. It's like sometimes I think a lot of the Copenhagen players they're a bit casual, if you could say it like that. I mean, people show up to the tournaments, but mostly to like have a good time. And then there's like a fourth of us. There's like, these to win this, we need to be serious about it. We want to compete and all of that.
And, hopefully for 2024, some of that competitive energy helps you guys get a golden ticket so someone goes to the World Championships, right? Because I don't think Denmark or Sweden had any representation at the World Championships this year.
That is, it's funny you should mention it. One of my biggest goal personally for 2024 is to see a Scandinavian at Worlds.
Yeah.
Which is also why the two later events of ours next year we have applied to become qualifier events. So we're hoping to be able to pass a golden ticket or a silver ticket to the winner of those events. We haven't heard anything so far, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I think for my new application, at the time of this recording, I have not heard back yet. So the New York Open got its other ticket, but the next event that I was trying to run that's a little bit more of an invitational hasn't gotten a ticket yet. Yeah. So it's probably just going to take a little bit.
Also, it's a bit funny because I have to tell the story. I mean, it's been mentioned in other podcasts so far, but my friend Benjamin from the crew and Nicholas for that instance, but I mean they went to the qualifier event in Budapest, and Benjamin came second. The guy who won the event decided that I don't know if he had the time or he just couldn't afford to go. So actually, the ticket went to Benjamin. Benjamin decided he couldn't afford it as well, which is a real shame. And we've been giving him so much smoke about it ever since. Love you, Benji.
Ain't nothing wrong with a little smoke amongst friends. Yeah, hopefully this year you guys get a chance to go. So it sounds like you're one of the more competitive players in your group, so it sounds like a good segue.
Yeah, I mean, I try to be, but then I think there needs to be a balance between the TOing and my own ambitions. I mean, of course, I want to do good. Of course, I want to go to Worlds if I can. But I mean, it's for me, it's more important to grow the community and potentially set someone else up to be able to go there.
Yep, I can definitely relate with that. I definitely have a lot more priority and a lot more effort into just making sure that everyone is having a fun time and like the community's growing and stuff like that. But yeah, so one thing that we also want to jump into today is the Operative Showdown.
Operative Showdown.
In which, in today's episode, we will be chatting about the Blooded.
Yes.
Anders' first competitive love, from what I understand.
Yes, I went to Warhammer Fest with them. I made this cool conversion and turned all of the Trader Guardsmen into goblins. I bought like this,
basically, right?
Yeah. I bought this box set of Age of Sigmar Squig Hoppers, where there's lots of like goblin knights or something. They have these like pointy helmets, so they're to make sure there's room for their noses. And I just swapped all of the heads and painted them green. And I'm not really happy about how the Ogren turned out. He's just like looks like a mutated version of Shrek, so I might just swap him for like a big squig or something like that.
Yeah, but in the Operative Showdown, we like talking about what makes our operative special. So outside of our conversions, Blooded has a big operative spread, so we wanted to kind of coalesce it into a couple different regions. So the first one would be like the melee specialist, the Butcher, the Flenser, the Commissar. Like, which one of these do you like the best? When do you find different ways to use them? Talk to us a little bit about the melee specialist on the Blooded.
I feel like I've had a certain amount of success with all of them. And just to break down the category, my favorite model of these three are the Commissar, but not for his power fist. I mean the instant Overwatch shot from a guy within 3 inches of himself is just. I've done so many setups by starting out turn point one, giving the first blooded token to my plasma gunner, putting him on a vantage point, shooting some poor guy out there, and then if he's still alive, my next activation is the Commissar, getting him to shoot his Overwatch immediately, and possibly bring some real sour news to whatever I'm facing. I did that a lot at Warhammer Fest.
Yeah, the free retain definitely helps that Overwatch punch a little bit harder than its 4-up and 5-up ballistic skill would imply. Because of the Blooded's core mechanic, where if they have the Blooded token, you get a free retain, which just allows your poor ballistic skill to really punch up, especially on a secondary shot with an AP2 gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, because if most models are going to go to one defense dice being struck by an AP2 weapon, so I more or less only need one additional hit out of 4 attack dice in total, which one has already been auto-retained. So I basically just need one more hit, which I have pretty good chances of getting, and it's just for a basic hit, it's still 5 damage, which is going to turn most models.
Any non-elite. Any non-elite is going to take a fair chunk of change, at least. Especially if you've gotten 1 retain and 3 dice on 4s, then 1 dice on 3 dice on 5s is pretty likely to follow up and kill most things. Just maybe not a 14 wound Space Marine.
No.
Yeah.
But I mean, chip damage is often the way to go on the bigger models. And I mean, like if I've done that twice, that's like 2 activations in a row. It's still like 10 damage going through, and that hurts even for a Space Marine. I've been forced to use that strategy a lot against. I played a guy who played Gallopox at the Warhammer Fest. The game went horrible. He like tore me apart. he made so many of his feel no pains. It was just not much to do afterwards.
Yeah, when you've got around 76 wounds coming in, or 73 wounds coming in against your mostly melee models, right? And a 5-up feel no pain, it's going to be rough for you to trade reliably, especially if they turn on the injury aura. So when it comes to melee operatives that have a punch above their weight, you've got the butcher, the flenser. Which one is doing more work for you?
I really like working with the flenser. The whole charge from concealment and the whole I died, but I'm going to strike you again before I go down. It's just turned some encounters around for me.
It also means that, after he dies in melee, if someone else wants to also charge and fight him in melee, you still get a little bit of chip damage on the way out, right?
Yeah,
so having him charge and fight two guys and then being able to still use that second injured combat step is pretty nice, especially with 4 dice on 3s, 3/4, lethal 5 ceaseless, which is kind of what his profile is, right?
Yes. So about the butcher, he's like, of course, he's one of the frontliners. Often goes out and just chops people to bits, but I mostly use him to like build up the blood token pool. Like going in for a kill and then heal him a bit because he does that when he strikes someone, or if he survives.
He kills someone in melee, he heals back at the end, so he's able to push a little bit harder than some of the. He's actually a melee specialist for the team, and then every time he hits with a critical, you actually cut off a piece of your opponent's soul and put it into your blood token pool.
Yes, smear some of his blood on your face or something like that. It's been some months since I last picked them up. I was actually considering picking them up again when we're going to Aalborg here in January, but I haven't really decided yet. So, but enough of that. It's.
So those are some of your melee specialists. What about the? You have a small number of range specialists, so that's probably relatively easy to go over because you only are allowed 2 gunners, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So you get a plasma, a grenade launcher, and generally a sniper?
Yeah, something like that. It depends on the matchup. That's
because your other option is
everybody says that.
Melton, right?
It's a melter. So for instance, in the Gellerpox matchup, I usually go with the melter. And if I meet a melee heavy elite team as well. Otherwise, it's just doing chip damage until I can reach them and possibly kill them in melee.
Okay. When it comes to the more powerful pieces, kind of like the showy pieces, we have like the butcher, or not the butcher. We have the Ogren and the Grenadier are 2 of the more obvious powerful pieces, and probably your leader model because he gets the gaze with gods if he's inside your opponent's drop zone. So how do you use those 3 pieces in different situations?
I mean, the Ogren is often one of the first guys to go because he's big and he has a lot of wounds and he takes up a lot of presence on the battlefield. If that's how it's going to be, you might as well take advantage of it. So trying to play a bit cagey with him, moving up the board slowly and. Your opponent, if someone who's not used to playing blooded or against blooded, will definitely have a lot of their focus on him. So I can take, for instance, the Grenadier a bit more stealthily up the board and set him up for some extreme mayhem. Point 2 or 3. Yeah, that's.
You're using the Ogren as your distraction Carnifex while your Grenadier goes around the back edge to try to catch people as they react to your Ogren's more forward movement, which is nice.
Yeah, exactly. And then of course, if I have a chance to kill someone with the Ogren, I'll definitely go in and do it. I haven't so far been taking the 2 regular guys over one of the specialists. So. I've been so far going Commissar and Ogren in every game I've played with them. I mean,
you're just finding the utility of those 2 pieces to be too high, yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm curious about who is your overall damage output MVP.
Oh, that's a difficult one. I mean, I've had different experiences with most of them. But I think I would like to give a little shout out to someone who's not on the list, the Trench Sweeper with his Storm Shield and Shotgun. He's just been I've been having so many games where he just stood his ground and been taking so many hits and just get up close and shoots people in the face. I mean, I think his shotgun is only damage 3/3 or something, but I mean against like 7 wound teams, he's just super good.
And he hits on 2s.
Also, yeah, exactly. Also, someone else who I've been having a lot of success with is the Thug with his heavy club.
The Thug. The Thug with his heavy club, yeah. Just because the Thug has a natural defense ability, so any normal damage is reduced to a minimum of 1 by 1. So you can take a bolter, only take 2 4 damage, which is very powerful on a 4-up save model. Because he's one of the natural 4-up save models. I think you have him, and the Trench Sweeper as the 2 pieces on the team that start at a 4-up instead of a 5-up. So they are able to hold positions.
The Commissar as well, or the Enforcer, as he's actually called. But yeah. But otherwise, yes, it's only the 3 of them.
Yeah, so Thug is great. I definitely have run into issues trying to remove it from the board, especially if you have a Blooded token and you've got a Trench Sweeper kind of floating around. You can throw it over the Trench Sweeper, and then by the time it gets to the Thug, he's taking like no damage. So those defensive bubbles are really important for Blooded. I know a lot of players, when they first pick up the team, they run into a lot of issues trying to actually use their CP. But if you're paying attention and you can get people to shoot things they don't want to, or have the ability to shoot into melee, that's where a lot of your attack ploys are getting used early on.
Oh yeah. No, yeah. One of the issues I've been having with them is the fact that they can only do seek and destroy. That's when you meet teams like Legionaries, for instance, where you are like almost never guaranteed your kill, because much of the time I was using them, everyone was playing Nurgle all the time. I mean, I see more people do Siege or Slaanesh and even Khorne now. I've even played a guy who was all undivided on all of his guys. But at the time, the only real thing for Legionary players were Nurgle. So I felt like most of the time I was never really guaranteed the kills. So setting them up with Eliminate Guard and all that sort of stuff, it was difficult at times.
I think I've heard that. I've heard that similar worry echoed across a couple of the other people on the Northeast area who played Blooded a lot. I think both Nestor and Nick Craven, who were doing well with them in a mostly in the dark setting and mixed settings, they both said that Seek and Destroy only definitely hampers a lot of your game plans, because your opponent knows you're running at them. So if a good player is paying attention and they start reacting to eliminate guards by staying off of points, or making sure that all of your guys are out of range for a route, it can be very hard to actually get those last 2 points. And Bloodbath is not always that consistent. Getting to 75% is not always that easy. So being able to score the max of 24 is not guaranteed once people start paying attention to how you are scoring points. So for any aspiring competitive players, make sure that when you see an opponent who has to do a certain level of tack out play, that you are paying attention to how you can react to them. When it comes to the more competitive part of the Denmark scene, how competitive do you feel like the rest of Denmark is compared to what you perceive as the general meta? Because I know we were talking about how you feel like maybe about a quarter of your players are really competitive. How often are those competitive players practicing against each other, and how do those competitive players interact with kind of like the rest of the Denmark community?
I mean, so far, when it comes to tournaments, there have mostly been the ones that we arranged ourselves. So, I mean, of course, the guys in Aalborg has done a few as well. Sorry, rest of Denmark, if there's been someone out there, but I've simply not been aware of them. I mean, at the moment, one of our again, my friend Benjamin, he's hosting the weekly game nights at the local game stores. So he's often the what do you call it? Intro games, beginner games guy. He is often very happy to teach. But it's mostly when we travel to other places to compete. It's I feel like it really shines through. Don't really know what else to say. I mean, it's not like super competitive so far.
So I'm just curious, like, there's lots of different levels of Killteam play. I know that me and Jason have talked a lot on this podcast about how you're making sure that you want to welcome in the new players. How do you feel like your experienced players have done, better or worse? Or do you think that there are ways that you can help new players get into the game, or, expanding out to other regions? I know you're in Copenhagen, which is the capital city, but it sounds like Aalborg is another city that's running a tournament. I'm sure there's other spots in the area. If anyone from Denmark is listening, like, what hints or tips would you give that have helped you in Copenhagen push your scene forward?
Definitely be welcome to new players. I mean, it's the obvious one, and I feel like every community I've ever heard about fulfills this task greatly.
Do you have any players in Copenhagen you want to call out for being big players to help you? I know you mentioned the other tournament organizers, but I'm sure there are other players that are helping out.
I mean, it's not now making it sound like there's nobody else, and that's not true at all. But now it's mostly the guys from our organizer group. Most of the other players who is like often coming to compete. I mean, once we're done here, I've figured out some name. We're like,
you'll remember it the last time. Don't worry. Don't worry. The rest of Denmark, I'm sure that Anders will make sure that you're known locally. So if you're in Denmark and you're hearing this, make sure to get out to your tournaments and go play, and make sure that the new players have a place to learn and grow, because that's a big part of the game, because it's not really a game you can just read about online on Discord, just like Just Another Killteam Discord, right, Jason?
Yeah,
absolutely. You can join the Discord, join the chats. And I know that, like, at the beginning, before we were recording, we chatted a little bit about having different opinions versus, like, what does the internet think is good versus what we think is actually good. And I think that's a really interesting point. And it ties in with what Travis just said, where you can have all the internet opinions in the world, but then once you actually sit down on the table and play stuff, it looks a lot different. So I'm curious if there's anything in that realm that jumps out as, like, your top example.
From my own experience, it's mostly been the. For instance, I've after Warhammer Fest, I gave the Blooded a break, and began playing Hearthkyn Salvagers as soon as they released. And for a long time in the beginning, people were like speaking about how bad they were. And I mean, bad or not, it was like probably one of the funniest team I've ever played. I'm really a toolbox team kind of guy. So they obviously what do you say? They spoke to a part of the game that I really enjoy, and how you really can stir up some craziness on the battlefield when you're setting your team up right. And I've been enjoying them and had good results with them. Already before the first nerf, buff, before the first buff. So more buffs for them was just like a plus for me, I guess.
Yeah, definitely true. That ties in perfectly with our podcast segment for Niche Tactics.
Niche Tactics.
In which this one is a little bit less about comparing the different operatives and more of, like, diving into the cool, clever plays. And the faction that we're going to be focusing on for this one is the Hearthkyn Salvagers. So any of your favorite, like, combos, stacks, plays, strategy going into the game, like, what are you looking for? What are some of your favorite plays?
I mean, this one is not a popular one, especially because Alpha Strikes is a bit of a sore object for many people. But the Hearthkyn Salvagers has the option to put a concussion grenade on their jump pack guy and launch him forward and throwing it into the enemy deployment zone. Obviously, if you have better plans with your jump pack, do it by all means. He's really one of your most important utility pieces. But once in a while, it's just really fun to jump so far up the board. Use his 2 APL for that, and then use the Ancestors of Watching ploy to do a free shooting attack as long as he's not injured. Before that, I usually there's this like scan token that the locator can do, where you are allowed to reroll an attack dice as long as the target is within 3 inches of the token. And then if you really want to spice it up, you can use the proximate firepower ploy as well. So you are now hitting on 2s as long as you're within 5 inches of 6 inches of your target. So that's potentially a whole lot of damage. Can be really funny against horde teams because they often have to stand a bit more cramped to be in cover behind enemy lines. One of the downsides, except him, if you're playing against a melee horde, you can be pretty sure that you will lose him immediately afterwards. But the other downside is that as soon as you take that grenade and put it on him, you cannot take the grenadier, who has the utility grenade and the blast crack grenade, and has feel no pains against splash, torrent, and blast damage, which is crazy powerful.
You lose out on the free equipment points of taking the grenadier.
Yeah,
do
exactly.
A crazy Alpha Strike. One of the big things that's changed is that now that their movement ability is +1 inch on a normal move, the jump pack warrior actually flies 13 inches when he does this. So on turn 1, it's pretty hard to avoid some form of Alpha Strike, but the cost is that you do lose a big grenadier model, which is a lot. Isn't
on regular move, because his 12-inch movement is called a boost action. It's its own action, so I'm not really sure.
Yeah, so it's not based on his movement characteristic.
It's during a normal move, which I guess the jump pack warrior. No, it performs a normal move. So you're performing a free normal move action with the following additional rules. So you do get a 13-inch move.
Oh my! I didn't know.
I didn't know
Look
that either.
Look at that.
So swift.
Yeah, I mean, you learn something every day, I guess. Well, but again, you have a very good chance of losing him after doing such a move. So you really have to know what you want to do afterwards.
Because in my experience playing against Hearthkyn Salvagers, the jump pack warrior is one of the key pieces for the team because everyone else is moving up very slowly. He's one of the few operatives that gives you the ability to react to your opponent's plays towards the end of the turn quickly. Because as Hearthkyn Salvager are moving up the board, your opponent, if they're paying attention, knows kind of where you can put down operatives and abilities. So the jump pack warrior, if you lose them early, you actually do lose a lot of map control, which is not something that you're looking to do. So it is a risky play, and you can't just take it. It's not a free play.
No, definitely not. Sometimes I give him the grenade just to be a threat, and just let my opponent know that I can do this move as soon as I want to, as long as this guy's alive, and you better be careful, guys. And then perhaps that gives me an advantage on their positioning for other shooting attacks to be made from some of the other guys. But
when it comes to the Hearthkyn Salvagers, I feel like there's kind of two schools of thought right now. Ace, when he was on here a couple months ago, he was talking about how he uses some bait pieces so that he can build up grudge tokens and react to people fighting over the middle of the board. I do think that it seems like on the slightly more risky areas of midboard that Spain tends to play, that level of play is probably useful because having those reactive pieces on the second line is nice. When you get
Definitely.
some more midboard pieces, I feel like the range, focusing more on your range options and opening up paths of play is nice.
Yeah.
Which kind of play do you feel like you do with the Hearthkyn Salvagers? Are you focusing a little bit more on the bait style that Ace was doing, or are you trying to get range operatives into good positions with heavy barricades so that you can shoot people down with your superior firepower?
Definitely the second one. I mostly rely heavily on my gunners. Even the I won't call them the regular dwarfs, but the rest of them have like it's basically bolters that they are using.
You get bolters
So,
with P1 or you get bolters with Ceaseless, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Just hitting on 4s instead of 3s like the Space Marine does. But there are ways to work around that. It's not necessarily an issue. Again, with the proximate firepower or the reroll, if your target is within 3 of the token from your locator or the cognitor, I always get those two mixed up. I mean, by the names, of course. But yeah, I'd definitely say that I rely on good positioning for the gunners. Take out key operatives from the opponent team if he allows me to, and otherwise punish his hesitance if he doesn't reveal himself and just take up some more board space. I've begun playing more with knives, and it's super fun. The whole melee aspect is definitely some territory I need to explore more, but so far I haven't tried it out too much.
Okay, yeah, I think that being able to set up barricades that are heavy anywhere on the map, basically, and then allowing your operatives to ignore them means that even though you can only move 5 inches, being able to ignore that first barricade means that really your move and shoot is working at around a 7-inch operative range. So placing those forward barricades, moving into those positions, and using those as positions of power with either comms buffs or the ancestors are watching allows you to really have these mid-ground places that your opponent really doesn't want to go to. So I think that would be the range-centric way of playing those positional games versus taking knives and walking up and making sure that people are in stabbing range afterwards. Because the 7-inch charges or an 8-inch threat range is nice. Or no, because you're still charging at 7-inch threat range, right? Because it's 4 inches plus 2 because the steady advance only works on normal moves.
Yeah, exactly.
Which matchups do you find good for the Hearthkyn, and which ones do you find a little bit harder, and how do you play those matchups differently?
I mean, the obvious answer until recently has been commandos. I mean, a lot of people talk about how good they are against commandos, and I see that because, first of all, we have the ability to deny them their forward deploys, which hopefully won't be too much of an issue anymore. And it is just some really strong guns they use. Most times I've played commandos with them. Unfortunately, has been on Into the Dark, which is just a bad day from the beginning. So difficult.
Unfortunately, the math has not really changed on In the Dark, right? Where a commando gets to one of your guys, and you almost always lose, even with a knife.
And he can get just so far up the board before you get the chance to do anything about it. It's just a so absurd situation. There's 2 orcs in an open door on conceal, and I have my gunner just behind, but he can't do shit about it. Then I have to charge them to make sure they don't go too far. But then first chance one of them gets, he kills me, and then the other one will move up the board instead. I mean,
yes, commandos. I think I've heard people mention that commandos are a bad matchup for the Hearthkyn. I have not found that to be the case, nor did I see it at the World Championships. I think that at the end of the day, having 10 operatives that can all touch you in melee and kill you and be able to start on conceal means that oftentimes the dwarves are not really getting the first punch. And even but even without the first punch, your guns are not necessarily going to kill a dwarf or an orc. So I haven't found that matchup to be particularly good in your favor. If there was a good matchup, I think it would be most of the elites are pretty favorable to you, right? Because you have 1 million P1 guns, and you have crack grenades, you've got AP2 guns, you've got 7-inch charge dash shoot for free. So you can just play the activation game and use those extra 5 activations and really put the hurt on your opponent.
Oh yes, the blast crack grenade has really come in handy many times against especially legionaries. Where I think there was a game where I killed 2 guys that were in one go with just that one grenade, and then the game was just more or less over from there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're playing against Hearthkyn and you're worried about the blast profiles, make sure that you pre-space your models out of those blast ranges, because otherwise you will let your opponent get you with the D8 high explosive charge, basically.
Yeah, I think they were hiding behind the same barricade or something, and there's just not enough space for the.
No, you can't put 2 elites behind a barricade against Hearthkyn. No. I mean, there's not a ton of things that you can do as an elite player. The most important thing in that matchup for an elite player, if I was trying to break parity, is to make sure that you are in range to charge on 2 spots. So when your opponent gives up the ghost on one of them and deletes one of your dudes, you can charge and fight and kill on the other side. And then from there, maybe push forward onto that's position. But it's always going to be a hard matchup with that much AP floating around.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
All right. Any other final things you want to talk about the Denmark scene? Talk about any upcoming tournaments? I know you mentioned that you have your entire Denmark schedule lined up. Maybe you could preview it for anyone who's thinking about visiting Denmark, or for anyone who's listening in Denmark and doesn't know.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the first tournament from the group activation guys is the 10th of March. We're playing at a local game store called the Farag Cigar. All the Danes will know what I'm talking about. The second one is June 2nd, also at Farag Cigar. We have a lot of Swedes coming over at that one. I won't be able to attend myself due to family-related business, which is super unfortunate. But I only learned the date clash afterwards. But that's what it is. Then we have those were 2 one-day events. Then we have 2 two-day events. September 7th and 8th, we have a tournament in something called the Valby Kulturhus. That's one of the events where we have applied to become a qualifier event for Worlds. So hopefully we will have some tickets there. We will let everyone know as soon as we know anything. And then we have November 2nd and 3rd, which we are trying to label as the Danish Nationals. And hopefully there will also be a ticket there. So that's all exciting. And then, of course, I would like to give a little shout out to the guys in Aalborg who have the year's first big tournament at January 14th. So if anyone could be interested, they come over for a little 4-round event. It'll be super cozy, and there'll be a lot of guys from both Copenhagen and the Aalborg scene as well. And then a final shout out to all my guys in Copenhagen. I hope you're listening. I'm looking so much forward to play with all of you in the upcoming year. And happy holidays.
Yeah, I think by the time this comes out, we'll be a little bit into the new year. So we're excited. We're excited to bring in the new year with Anders. In case anyone is listening, and the GoFundMe for Lester's Workshop is still up, our only sponsor so far has had a laser fire and is causing him and his business a little bit of issues. So we'll have the GoFundMe link in the description, along with a shout out to the Goonhammer UTC finals for Killteam. It'll be the first time that Goonhammer's unified tournament circuit will be doing a Killteam event. And we'll have $1,000 worth of cash prizes for first, second, and third. So if anyone is looking to try their hand, it's probably some of the most competitive kill team in the Northeast area. Just by lieu of there being a $500 cash prize, make sure to get a ticket. Links will be in the show notes. All right, thanks, Anders, for dropping by and hanging out and talking a little bit about Denmark.
Thank you so much. It's been really cozy.
All right, thank you, listeners. Catch you on the next one.